Namaste. I'm Rosalind Russell from the United States, to be specific, Laguna Beach, California. And I've been invited for an interview here today. We have a 501c3, which means it's a foundation, an NGO. And the purpose is to come and see what it is that we have done and to further what it is we're doing. And that's the basic purpose. And I will also add that through the many years, almost 23, I have met many people. So my purpose is to see them again and visit with them and get lots of hugs and love. Technically, it was in 2003 when I started serving. I had to prepare in 2002 for what it was I was going to do. And so it was at that time. So a long time.
It is a long time.
It is. We have made many achievements, so what I'm going to do is just mention some. We began with giving 2 pregnant or in-season goats to selected villages in Kavre. We primarily work in Kavre. And we give them the goats, and then we gave them a little microfinancing, of which they did not give us the money. Never did I get 1 penny. And that's how we began. And then we realized there are many things that are needed here in Nepal. So we began with education. We did collaborations with Rotary, Kiwanis, and other organizations, but Rotary being primary.
And what are the current activities that you're doing in Nepal?
Oh, I'm so proud of what we just did. We just put in a computer lab, a state-of-the-art computer lab in the Nomo Buddha Methankot, yes, and at Sri, help me with this, Sri
Sansari Devi?
Yes, basic school, and it was fabulous. I went there for a dedication, and it was incredible. I felt like I was given so much to see that what we've planned on worked out really, really well. And the project was headed by a former board member of ours who is from Nepal. He lives in Los Angeles now.
How do you feel serving Nepal and Nepalese community?
How do I feel? Let me tell you, I never knew one could have such rich, ripe, big feelings about doing service. What I have learned that service blesses the person giving it, even though you are not compensated. You are compensated because you get that gift of knowing you have lifted, you have helped somebody else that doesn't have something, and you can give it. And what do they give me in return? Affection, and I see their success. That has been the most incredible thing. I have seen the successes of those things that we put into action, the projects that we've had. And we've had many projects. We've had, oh boy, a garden growing under, you call them tunnels. Greenhouses is what we call them. Those were successful. We've had a school, and until the earthquake, unfortunately, in 2015, the school ran well and was a good education, and it helped children in the local villages. I think there were 3 that came into the school. And there were no charges for the females because generally girls didn't get to go to school because that's not the culture. And I understood. The boys paid very small because we love the boys too. They also need education. And so we provided that. Because of the earthquake, it became understood that we could not continue without school without rebuilding it. And let me tell you, building it was really hard to do. I knew I didn't want to do it again. So we have gone with other schools and been able to put in computer labs and to provide other needs that they have for the schools. And so I'm excited that we've continued doing things in the realm of education. And by the way, in the villages, the #1 training that the women wanted was education. They wanted literacy. They didn't like being illiterate, and at that time, it was about a 92% illiterate rate within the rural villages of Kavre that we worked with. And the women were eager, and they worked whatever their age was, they all worked together, and they did learn. And my hope was I'd be able to speak to them, but they still spoke Nepali, and I still don't. But they got educated, they started businesses. The businesses were successful. We saw, for instance, the woman named Bhagwati. She could count her supplies. She could call up and make orders. And she did a service for her community. So it was great. With collaboration with Rotary, we brought in sewing. And we also learned you don't train all of the women in one village for one thing, because they can't make a successful income-based product out of it when it gets down to it. So, but that mistake turned out to be yet another miracle, because another group requested of us the fallow machines, the machines that weren't being used any longer, because we provided sewing machines. And you'll recall, of course, that it was in Banepa, if I recall correctly, that a group of women, single women, and in Nepal we know the single women, they're divorced, just choose to be single, or widowed, they're pretty much on their own. They're not given any help from their families. They're a curse. So here were the wonderful, incredible women joined together, working together and producing good clothing and happy. They were so happy. We gave them the machines. We were asked to sell them to them. But because we had been gifted to, the machines, it was like, oh, no, that would not be integral. And the things that my dear adopted Nepali son, Rabindra Satola, and I do, is we do as much truth and honesty in everything for no gain for ourselves. Because again, the gain we have is that we're blessed by seeing success of others. It takes nothing away from us to do that kind of thing. Oh no, the Nepalese people in general are really intelligent, very smart, very capable, very dedicated. And they just need help in how to do things. And again, with collaborations, we were able to bring those things in, and we were headed by Rabindra. And over on this side of the world. On my side of the world, my job was to promote what we do so that people could donate money for the projects. And basically, it's 100% of what comes in goes to our projects, because no one gets paid in this foundation, which I founded. And it's like, no, you work here as much as you can and you give, but you do not get paid, because these other people, some that, will never know that we're helped, they need the help, and we need to be generous with what we do. And that isn't how foundations are run. So like I said, with the microfinancing, all foundations, all of them, take the percentage of money that is interest. They take that money and keep it. We never took 1 rupee. That first one, it was exciting, because I would walk with the women to get water, and it was like I could carry 1 bucket and they laughed at me. They were carrying 3 and 5 every day, several times a day. And so to bring water to a localized area that they didn't have to walk as far, that was incredible. That was so marvelous. So yes, with Rotary, we were, and the Rotary Club that I'm specifically speaking about is Patton South. They have been #1 help. And I am also a Rotarian and have been since 2004. And Rabindra, you've been also for a long time as well. So they know what we do. They go and they inspect it anyway to make sure that things are good. We also had an incredible spring water. That was the Ojatar. So that was the spring water. After the earthquake, some of the lines were broken. They were repaired. And then there have been other water projects that we've been involved in, and it saves the women so much time. Going up and getting out of very small pools of water, probably not any bigger than this, dipping and pouring and then walking down these steep, little tiny trails. Only goats could really go on them. My feet were as wide as those trails. But we, the women, every day they do that so many times, and that's for their feeding their livestock, for washing their hair, their clothing, their children, making food. for everything. It was a lot of water carrying. And I only went once, you know, in a day. Thought, oh, that's not too bad. But when I realized the women were going 5 times a day, it was like, oh, that's terrible. And then they had to purify the water because it wasn't always clean and it was polluted with things in it. Right, we did do that. And one of the things that I was terrorizing, of course, with the earthquake, and Rabindra called me during the aftershakes, and he was, Mom, you wouldn't believe how hard it is here. It's still shaking. And I said, oh, excuse me, I understand. I'm from California. We have earthquakes all the time. Not like here. But then again, the buildings that we have, they're built far differently. The infrastructure is able to resist, you know, the collapse of so many things. But yes, within 3 days, because of your leadership, Rabindra, 3 days we were boots on the ground, and we were giving out beans and rice and sugar, tea. What else? Tents. Oh, yes, there were tents that were given because there was nowhere for anybody to sleep and be, you know, relatively safe. And then, of course, there were the marauders of the country taking their opportunistic positions and coming in and taking women into the sex trade, kidnapping children. There were many bad things going on, but we were able to get in and begin a process of helping and lifting, giving hope. For our traumatized children and their parents, we had people that came in and brought in psychological games for the children so that they could recover. With the children recovering and showing happy and you know, happiness and joy, their parents began to recover because that's their concern, their children. So it was an amazing thing to observe how things were restored. And then comes the second earthquake. Oh my goodness. But again, more recovery continued, and people remained hopeful, and we remained active, doing everything that we could think of. And I'm not a Nepali, so I always have to rely on who is, so that I can understand the best things that we need to do.
And also, in that mission, many Nepalese artists and filmmakers, they joined us, and they also helped in the very affected areas in Kaveri.
Yeah, Kaveri was hit very, very hard with those quakes. Kaveri seems to get hit with a lot of things, like the recent monsoons, but I'm jumping ahead.
So you already answered some of the question that I have for you today.
Ooh.
Like, how do we operate? Volunteering without pay, or?
Definitely without pay. So for almost 23 years, I personally have not received 1 cent. Nothing, 0. It's okay. Of course, I had to do my own work to provide for my living, which I did. And the same for Rabindra. It's like, this is his country. These are his people. We started with Wajatar, and that was his village. So it was close to his heart for that. So you never had a problem not getting paid.
People say that we serve ourselves rather than the community, begging in the foreign countries.
Well, some people are just right out stupid. In our case, no, because we're not getting paid. How can we benefit? We're not benefiting, we don't get any money. We're not benefiting because we don't get any product. But we are benefiting because our hearts get to be bigger and more full. We get to be happier because we are helping other people. And it doesn't cost anything to be kind and loving and bring things to people that they need. How are we going to have peace in the world if we don't allow it to be present by loving each other?
Do you have any suggestions for the community and the buttheads who says that they benefit themselves and to the government?
Well, the suggestions, I think on this journey already, I've seen so much improvement here. I used to come here and dread looking at the streets because there would be piles of trash. I would see sick cows standing on looking for food, and it made my heart sad. And I'm going, how sacred can a cow be not to be treated well? There are no cows in the street. There's no trash in the street. It's cleaner. And there are lights on the roads. And the roads are bigger. So I am delighted to see that the corruption that is very, very apparent that's here, that doesn't mean that there isn't corruption in every country. There is. And it's just more here. So underdeveloped countries, which Nepal is an underdeveloped country, it's not even third level, you know, third world. It's just awful. And that's always corruption. So some of the corruption being lifted and dissipated is helping the people far more than anything else. So my suggestion was keep bringing in people that are going to work for the country and for the people, not to line their own pockets. Like, why don't you and didn't you have electricity when you were the second country in the world for hydropower, number 2 in the world, and you didn't have electricity all of the time?
For a long time.
Yeah, that was corruption. And that meant somebody was putting money in their pocket, not helping the regular people, lifting the government, nothing. Yes, many, many years ago, my longest time girlfriend had eventually 3 children. All 3 of them were gay. The first one, just very gay, beautiful man, gorgeous man. And then she had a daughter who is now a trans and a handsome man. And unfortunately, her third handsome, beautiful son killed himself, which is not uncommon in the gay community, sad to say. They don't know how to adjust. People aren't accepting. It's a lot to take in when it's not a real choice. And also, a lot of people say, well, it's a choice. Not really. Go do your homework. There are people that are gay because they were raped. And that's men and women. Mostly we think about women as the one that are raped. Little boys are raped too. They need to be very protected. And so a child gets confused in their sexuality and they lean into being gay because they think, oh, well, it wasn't horrible, because they didn't know. So yes, I have worked because of my girlfriend. Her name is Johnette. I've worked in the LGBTQ community forever, and I learned when her eldest son, when he got married, I was the only non-family or non-gay friend there, other than the family. And I just went, wow. And I was in seminary. Seminary is where you go to school for many years to become, I'll call it here, a priest. And so I became a priest in my country. And I decided I would also do these blessings. They were not at that time legal. They are legal. Same-sex marriages are common and legal in my country. And so I was thrilled to work within the community. It doesn't mean I understood the gay world or anything, but I knew this. Most importantly, God makes no mistakes. So these children of God, they're gay, I'm blessing them. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to acknowledge that they have love between each other and that they must honor that. They have the same responsibilities as a regular man and woman respectively have also to do. So it's critically important, because here's the deal. Love is love. And let us be more loving. We're going to have a lot better world. I have worked with a number of inmates, and the only way I work with them is one-on-one. I'm not interested of them getting out of their jail cell. I don't care. I'm not interested in having, that they get a timeout. I'm interested in what are you going to do when you get out of here? Because there's no question that prison changes how you're going to be in life. And it's a very cruel situation that humans have instituted, and for very good reason. Some very terrible people out there. They need help. So yes, I have worked with them. The longest person with second-degree murder ×3 was released. There was some little thing where he was able to get out. And actually, of all the inmates that I've worked with, he was the only one that I didn't feel he was guilty. And I always get their transcripts, because Inmates are called con artists. That means, truthfully, they can run circles around me. They're smart, they're capable. It was like, just give me your paperwork so I know the different crimes that you have done. Usually there's not one, there'll be several. So that particular one that was released 27 years, and I did go visit him, is very successful and has become very wealthy again. He was wealthy when he went into prison. And then the other one was 17 years, the other longest one. But I've worked with many of them, and a few of them have become successful. I can't take credit. I think it was with their own hearts. Could I give guidance? Yes, because what would I do to help them? I would send them postcards. Today I am shopping at Costco. Today I am washing my car. I am cooking. I would tell them regular things. I didn't tell them that the world is full of, you know, sunshine and strawberries. I didn't do that. I talked real life to them. And what are you going to do when you get out? You cannot be angry, because your anger will, one, make you ill, two, make you unhappy, and you might do the same stupid thing again. So I wanted to promote them to be lifted. Primarily the people in the inmates that I've worked with have been men, but I have worked with a few women. And that I'm currently not really working with anybody because they have to be referred to me to begin with.